A $150 bottle of designer perfume holds about $4.50 of perfume. That's the juice, the oils, the solvent, the thing you actually smell. Published industry breakdowns put it somewhere between 1 and 10% of the shelf price, and 3% is the number that keeps coming back. So the other $145 and change is buying something. It isn't the liquid. It isn't the brand's factory, because the brand doesn't have one. In most cases, the brand didn't create the scent, doesn't manufacture the bottle, and doesn't own the right to sell it. It rents out its own name to a company you've never heard of and collects a percentage. Look at the bottle on your shelf. Jimmy Choo, Coach, Montblanc. Guess? 4 different fashion houses, 4 different price points, 4 different stories about who you become when you wear them. All 4 are made and sold by the same company, Inner Parfums, a licensing specialist that reported about $1.5 billion in net sales for 2025. Jimmy Choo alone was around 17% of that. Coach and Montblanc were about 15% each. Guess 12. The fashion house doesn't make the perfume. It signs a contract, usually a long one, and a licensee builds the entire product around the name. And here's the part that matters to you. Those contracts don't just set a royalty. Company filings describe them as carrying minimum advertising commitments. The licensee is contractually obligated to spend a floor amount on marketing every year. Not encouraged. Obligated. So the advertising you're about to see isn't a marketing department's optimism. It's a legal requirement written into the deal, and it gets funded out of the price you pay. Now the scent itself. There's a perfumer somewhere, and the ad wants you to picture that person hunched over a workbench inside a Paris atelier with the brand's name on the door. That's almost never where they work. They work for one of 4 companies: Givaudan, dsm-firmenich, International Flavors and Fragrances, and Symrise. Between them, they dominate the global flavor and fragrance market. These are chemical companies, publicly traded, industrial scale, and mostly invisible to you because their contracts keep them that way. The perfume you wear because it feels like your personality was probably composed by a salaried employee of a Swiss company in a lab that also formulates the smell of laundry detergent and car interiors. That isn't an insult to the work. Those are some of the best noses alive. It's just that the person who made the thing gets no credit, and the name that gets the credit made nothing. Here's how a designer's scent usually gets born. The brand writes a brief. Sometimes it's technical. Often it's a mood board, and a sentence like, "The feeling of a Tuscan afternoon, but confident." That brief goes out to several fragrance houses at once. Each one puts perfumers on it, burns raw materials, runs consumer panels, builds submissions, and sends them in. Then the brand picks one. The losers get paid nothing. They absorb the raw materials, the lab hours, the testing, and they walk away with a rejection. Some briefs go through multiple rounds. Some get killed after the winner is chosen when the brand changes direction. A business can only run that way if the winners cover the losses. So the cost of every failed pitch at every house is folded into the price of the ones that make it to a shelf. When you buy a bottle, you're partly paying for a dozen perfumes that were never sold to anyone because a marketing team decided they weren't Tuscan enough. Every fragrance brand loves to talk about rare materials, and the materials really are extraordinary. Orris butter, made from iris rhizomes aged for years, takes hundreds of kilos of dried rhizome to yield a single kilo of butter. Grass jasmine, absolute, costs many times what Egyptian jasmine costs. Ambergris and fine oud go higher still. These are among the most expensive raw materials on Earth. Those numbers are real. They're also, for most of what's on a department store counter, irrelevant. A mass-market designer formula is built mainly from synthetic aroma chemicals, which is exactly why the juice lands at a few dollars a bottle. Synthetics aren't cheating. They're more stable, more consistent, often better for the ecosystems that the naturals come from. But notice how the story works. The industry describes an economy of hand-picked flowers at dawn and sells you a product whose cost structure is dominated by glass, paper, and television. The rare ingredients aren't the reason your perfume is expensive. They're the reason you believe it should be. If you're finding this useful, subscribing genuinely helps this channel keep making these. It's free, it takes a second, and it's the only thing that decides whether the next one gets made. Because we still haven't touched the most expensive object in this transaction. It isn't the perfume, it's the thing you throw in a drawer and forget about. The heaviest cost in a lot of designer fragrances is the packaging. Thick glass with a weighted base, so it lands on a counter with authority. A metal collar. A cap that's often Zamac, a zinc alloy, because plastic feels like a lie in your hand. A pump that has to atomize identically on spray 1 and spray 400. A magnet, so the cap clicks. Then the carton, rigid board, foil stamping, a cellophane wrap applied by a machine that exists purely to make the unwrapping feel like an event. That assembly routinely costs more than the liquid inside it, sometimes several times more. And it's the deliberate part. The weight of the bottle is doing the same job as the price tag. You can't evaluate a smell before you buy it. Not really. Not in a store where 50 other smells are in the air. So you evaluate the object. The industry knows you do that, and it spends accordingly. Then there's the advertisement, and remember, a chunk of it is contractually mandatory. Perfume commercials are the most expensive-looking 30 seconds in retail. Feature film directors, actors on multi-year deals, shoots in locations that have nothing to do with the product because there's nothing to show. You cannot photograph a smell, so the campaign photographs a life instead, and the perfume becomes the receipt for that life. Add the celebrity fee, the media buy across 2 hemispheres, the holiday push where the whole category makes its year, and the launch. New fragrances arrive constantly. The sheer volume of launches is the industry's defining feature, and each one needs its own campaign, its own influencer wave, its own reason for you to care. The ad isn't promoting the product. In this category, the ad largely is the product. The liquid is what you take home so you can keep believing it. Walk up to the counter and everything is free. The tester, the paper strip, the sample vial, the gift with purchase, that little pouch with a mini bottle and a body lotion nobody has ever finished. None of it is free. In the trade, it's called gratis, and it's a planned line item, produced by the million and written into the launch budget before a single bottle sells. Testers are full-size product given away permanently to every door in the country. Samples are manufactured, filled, and shipped at real cost. That cost has exactly one place to go: the price of the bottles that do sell. Every customer who sprays a wrist and walks out is being subsidized by the customer who buys. It's a functioning system. It's just not generosity. Now the part the brands would rather not narrate. The category launches far more product than it sells, so there is always leftover stock. Discontinued flankers, dead scents, over-ordered holiday sets. Some of it flows sideways through the gray market. Distributors and wholesalers move it to discount chains and off-price retailers, which is why you find a $150 designer bottle at an off-price store for $40, sitting next to a brand that would swear it never authorized that. And some of it just gets destroyed. Burberry admitted destroying millions of pounds of unsold product in a single year, beauty included, and stopped the practice in 2018 after public pressure. The logic was never that the goods were bad. It was that a discounted bottle damages the story more than a burned bottle does, which tells you what you're actually buying. A bottle that gets destroyed to protect a price is a bottle whose value was never in the liquid. One last cost, and this one you pay without ever seeing a receipt. Fragrance ingredients are regulated, and the rules tighten over time. The EU restricted several classic allergens in cosmetics, including the compounds that made oak moss absolute what it was. Oak moss is the backbone of the Kypri family, which means a whole generation of legendary perfumes had to be reformulated to stay legal. The perfumes weren't discontinued. The names stayed, the bottles stayed, the prices stayed, or went up. What changed was the contents. That's the perfume economy in one move. The name is licensed, the scent is made by a chemical company that can't be named, the cost is in glass and advertising, the free samples come out of your bottle, the leftovers get burned to protect the price, and even the smell itself can be rewritten underneath you, because at no point was the smell the thing you were buying. Perfume isn't the only business that hides its real engine behind the product you can see. McDonald's does the same thing with hamburgers. The burger is the decoy, and the money is somewhere else. It's real estate. That story is the last episode, waiting right here.